Hey guys, welcome to a brand new mixing tutorial, and today let's take a look at my cover of Metamorph by Ocean's 8 Alaska. I am so happy with this cover, with this mix, and with this song that this band is finally back. One of my first ever metal shows was Ocean's 8 Alaska here in Portugal, and it was a vibe, and I can't wait to have a gig again. Let's go. There's a lot of new tricks today, new plugins. It's my first tutorial after Black Friday, so I got a few new purchases, a few of them in the master, which we'll talk about later. Turn off all the processing except for the limiter to keep this tutorial at a consistent volume for you guys. I will usually not mix into it. Right now it will just be chopping a little bit of the drums as we play back the mix. Yeah. So, a new drum sound. This drum sound is inspired on the original song by Ocean's 8 Alaska, and it's very much based on Chris Turner's very real playing, but not real. So they work with Nick Sampson, and since Chris Turner is such a good, consistent, hard-hitting drummer, they always try to go the no sample route or the least sample route possible. So I tried to make a drum sound that sounds very metally, but also very natural, if that's possible, which it is. Nothing that's too impossible sounding. Yep, those are what the plugins all sound like, and we'll go through them one by one to build this drum sound. It is using the GGD P4 library, and only that. So, using the second kick, the 24, a little bit deeper and more scooped, and using the highest tune snare, the Pearl Reference Brass, but we are cheating a little bit by detuning it in the snare section. So the original was quite a bit higher. I did it to match the original song a little bit better. From there to there, a little bit more beefy, which is cool. Firstly, on the kick, you'll see this pattern a lot. This is something I haven't yet figured out how to mix Get Good Drums without, because they always sound super, super clean. And that poses a problem where sometimes the kick, snare, and direct mics will sound a little bit sterile. And I will almost always run them through this SSL channel strip emulation by Brainworks. Not even for the EQ. Sometimes I will, but not really for the EQ, but for the saturation, THD thing. If you could hear the on-off there, it's an immediate increase in like size and warmth. Those really are the words. And this is a little bit of distortion that helps them feel more real and impactful. The hero of today's mix is a new plugin I got, and you're looking at this and you're like, whoa, what is that? That's what I thought until I fell in love with it. The Amplified Instrument Processor by Cornef. It's basically a channel strip like this, and I'll explain it to you first because I'll be using it a lot. It has an EQ, low, mid, and highs, filters, a compressor, and a filter for annoying mid-range. It also has a little bit of magic, this proprietary signal processing by Cornef, which I try to use on every single thing to figure out how I like it, what it does. It gives it, once again, just like the SSL, a little bit of warmth and a little bit of a stereo thing where it makes everything that you put it on a little bit different because it emulates different analog channels, just like the SSL. So putting this throughout my mix gave it a funny stereo image. It's very desirable and real and not sterile. That's the keyword again. But here I am going hard on the EQ. So that's like 4 dB at 60 to make the kick bloom down there. A little bit of 1.5 and a ton of 6K to make it click. A little bit of 20 millisecond attack compression gives me the snap on the kick and the PSP magic. That's the bulk of the kick right there. A little bit of shaping, getting rid of low mids, and boosting up a little bit of the high mids to match the original kick that had nice presence in this attacky area. Very sloppy and different from the high highs. Trans X, another staple of my drum mixing to give the drums the transient punch, but only on certain frequencies. So this is from 100 and below. You can hear a little bit of thud. That goes away pretty quick because it's transient based and more mid-range. Also, the slightest hint of R bass at 55 gives the kick the sub hit. Pretty big transformation all around. Onto the snare mic, and you'll see similar strategies. I like to keep the strategies for direct mics similar so that they sound cohesive. SSL, saturation. Immediately a bit warmer, more real. Into, oof, a big snare job with this channel strip. From that to that, that's a boost at around 180, about 2 decibels. -4 at 700. This is the lame mid-range that on snare will be very pingy, and high-end boosts at 3K and 7K. A little bit of 30 millisecond attack compression this time, so it's even more attacky than the kick drum, and the proprietary signal processing magic. A lot of work on the EQ going here, as well as here. Yeah, this is like that on steroids, maybe a little bit overdone now in retrospect. This is boosting the 100 area, which doesn't have the fundamental, but has low energy beneath it. That is key. Annoying mids at 500, annoying mids at 2K, annoying mids at 4K. Bottom snare shit. High-end boost. And Trans X for energy. Mostly low-end energy here. Yes. We can hear the snare low-end punch to match the kick. Cool. Direct mics. Toms is where the thing shined the most, in my opinion. The Cornef guy. So again, saturation. Boom. I also boosted the low end of them a little bit here. Use the EQ for that. Why not? And tom part, please. Oh yes, that's mostly EQ work though. Removing a little bit of 150 boominess and 500 honkiness. Removing a little bit of 2K harshness and boosting a ton of 7K for attack. Big EQ work. The compressor on the fastest settings is just trying to make sure that the attack isn't too loud so that the toms can be nice and sustainy, and proprietary signal processing. Huge tom transformation, more mid scoop here at the fab filter. They go to a reverb. GGD reverb, just a little bit less mids. And now for everything that has cymbals on it, goes to a brass bus where I usually do the cymbal EQ treatments. Today that includes, let's get a cymbal part. That includes Pultec, so the brightening tool of choice for cymbals for me. 8K, 3.5 of boost. Make them pointy, make them shiny. Could be 10K now in retrospect. Might keep it there. Soothe. Starting from the Cymbal Smooth preset by Nolly, which is very similar to my default setting, where you just sharpness and selectivity are at max. Make sure you hear those whistles in the delta and adjust taste. And a little bit of harshness at the 8K area, and always the 4K area deserves a little bit of taming. This changes everything. These three plugins on and off. Way clearer. Hi-hat spot mic, nothing to write home about. Removing mid-range. Spot mics are clean. Overheads. Cornef guy just for the proprietary signal processing, which is scooping some mid-range and adding some high-end on this. So many whistles that go away just with this. That's very good. And a little bit of stereo widening, which there is also that little trick here. Yeah, less low-end rumble, a little bit less of 8K shiny pointiness that this sadly added too much of, and overhead compression. I keep falling back on this guy. So what you want when you're compressing overheads is that it turns from something like psh, 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 to something like psh, 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 where you bring down the attack and up the sustain of the cymbals. And it makes the player sound more energetic. At last, the room. I like to get GGD to do a hyper fake room where there's basically only snare, which is what I want the most of in terms of decay. Also put this on just for PSB's sake, and not doing much here. Maybe the snare's a little bit thicker because of the saturation thing. Experience here, new experiment, I mean. This limiter on rooms and V2. Again, this guy is crushing the snare a little bit. Start making it longer and bringing up the cymbal and kick information. DF comp is the guy I usually crush the snare with. And when you crush the snare on the rooms like this and it's only snare, you get a very, very long, pleasant snare decay when you smash your room. Night and day. Removing a little bit of mid buildup, and by now we have this drum sound. Big differences, and here's one on the bus. I tried to put this guy again just to see what PSP did. You guys let me know. I don't know if I like it more, I like it less, but it's a very big decision, and I built the mix with it on, but without it, it's also a cool sound. A little bit more mid-rangey with it off and a little bit more punchy with it on. It's a choice. It is a choice. What isn't a choice is nicely compressing them after with the pie. This guy just makes the kick and snare have a nice pointy attack at the end. The way they hit this needle just sounds good. That's my au naturel drum sound inspired by Chris Turner and Nick Sampson's production. Limiter is actually working quite a bit, but that's all right. It doesn't change our sonic decisions. Bass. Bass is Euro bass on its distortion channel. So the stock distortion Euro bass, easy, basic gent kit. I always dislike the amount of mid-range that it has and quality of mid-range. And oh, this is a very late move I did to boost subs. We'll get there. The first thing I did was a little bit of this honky mid-range that it has, which can be very cool. But here I don't like it. And there's loads of harshness that will kill many times over at 2.8 and 3.3. Almost unlistenable with it off. Crushing it, limiting it like hell with MV2. A thick, always present slab of bass, or bass at 60 to try to give it more sub information and loads of it. No joke, this really is what brings the bass to life. Instead of doing it on an EQ, you could try to do it on a harmonic generator to make it a little bit more dynamic. Not dynamic, but like deep instead of a static EQ boost. And this guy here, watch the on and off, because hero today is insufferable mid-range filter to kill the harsh guy. And the way the PSP grabs the thing as well, the low end as well, it's amazing. I try to make it more stereo. It doesn't do a lot, so I don't know why that is there. Also cut a lot of 200 to make the bass a little bit less boomy, more deep. And the insufferable mid-range filter killed the 3.3 harshness as well as the harmonics, and you can boost high frequencies to compensate with a single knob. Just saved our bass. Love it. So thick. All right, guitar tone. Just hearing this new limiter. All right, so loads of things happening. New guitar, the Jazzmaster by Caesar, of course, with the bare knuckle silos. Very articulate and not harsh, and mid-range pickups, mid-range focused pickups. I love them, and for this mix, which is a little bit more metal, I think, than what the pickups make it look on this tuning, got rid of a little bit of the mids and boosted the rest to make it the pickups a bit more scooped into this badass VH4 by STL. Immediately into a super heavy tone from the get-go. Loads of small stuff. You can see all these little mid-range things to control. Important one is boosting 1.6, matching the original guitars, which are very present here. Scooping a bit here, And the main guy here is that palm mute low end control dynamic band at 128. Keeping the palm mute low end in check. A rouser is here to give our guitars a little bit of a toothy front end with the 20 millisecond attack. It means that when the guitar is silent, which is a lot of little spaces here in the breakdowns, as soon as it comes back, there's 20 milliseconds of bite. There. Without it, with it. You can hear it go ka 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 ka, which is super nice. A little bit of saturation helps ease the mid-range, I think. So does Soothe, main guy to do it with. You can hear it removing all the stuff we don't like. A little bit of a more dynamic version of what I got going on here. Could take all of this off, honestly, right now. Soothe is doing that work. And original mix has the guitars very saturated in the high end. Didn't really get it in the amp. So in the end, I saturated after the amp signal with Saturn above 500. With it, without it. So you can hear that they're a little bit more boxy. And with it on, they're a bit more fizzy. They're both cool. And I think the latter one matches the original a bit more. Rock solid foundation for the mix. So this wet lead is going to feature my new reverb. So tonality, Will Putney, amp 2, cab 3. Just stock, bam, bam. I know that cab 3 has mid-range that's appropriate for these leads. Into 7th heaven. So for about more than a year, all that I've used for reverb, and you guys have seen it, is Soundtoys low plate. For good and bad. For good, because it just sounds very good on a lot of occasions and a lot of sources. And for bad, because I've never tried anything else. And it's time I got myself a new little reverb to try. I like this one because it not only has plates, like the one there, but it has tons of different other room algorithms that I can start to experiment with. So for these leads, I thought the church one could be very cool. Built in with the filters, super awesome. You have to do a little bit more work on the EQ. Negligible there. Yep, new reverb. Ignore the orange track. That's the playthrough track. After that, we have my usual post-production effects and explosions, and there's a lot of cool stuff to talk about recreating the lo-fi beat at the beginning. Let's go through my post-production that goes on the song. First, explosion sound. Removed a lot of mid-range from it today, making it more scooped. Taste, preference. This usual one shot on the big snares, no big deal. Big ass bass drop. So this guy is a triangle bass drop, not a sine wave. This means it has a lot of high-end content, not a lot of more. And I took care of it with the EQ, but the harmonics resulting from it being a triangle wave are still coming in through in the 300 area, which make this cut a lot forward in the mix compared to a sine wave. Cool trick. Reverse cymbal. 4K scoop. I seem to have stopped the bass on a slide part, and now it doesn't want to play. There you go. yep, reverse snare. Printed the room tracks from the GGD and added a reverb. Okay, now let's get into the lo-fi beat, because this is very interesting. Okay, first guy is the Waves electric piano, playing very softly on velocities and getting rid of all the high end from the keys. It just gives it the chords. Very good sound. Bass. This bass guy is Serum, a new synth that I have bought and still need to learn how to use and customize. For now, I grabbed a preset that sounds a bit like this. Very, very hard. What we did on it is this, remove all the high end, keep it on the low. Oh wait. Oh yeah, that's what is different. And we have the Reaper stock compressor here to do a sidechain trick. We have a beat down here that I'll show as well. We have that beat sending to the compressor, funny enough. And that beat is gonna duck the bass whenever the kick hits. So the bass comes up with the kick. Very cool. I've programmed the beat here on MIDI because I have a new electronic drum sampler that I can make look like all the mappings that I want, which is Battery by Native Instruments. It's old, but I figured out on a hip-hop video that I can do something with it that I've always wanted to do, which is just load samples into it. And they're now attributed to notes on the piano, and I can output these to different outs, mix them separately, and basically build my own electronic GGD, room sound, whatever you'd like to call your favorite samplers, and basically program beats like this, the same way I do the natural drums on our samplers. So that's what Battery is doing. So I'm mixing it. In terms of mixing, I just have to make sure it's a little bit lo-fied so that it's not full range before the full song. Vinyl crackle to keep things lo-fi. Gotta love it. And here is something amazing. This is your boy. You will never hear this again like that. Let's see what went into this disaster, making this disaster an amazing sample. It's not a disaster. I am pretty much in tune, and I checked that with autotune. Hero of the story is Little Altar Boy, distorting my formant to make me sound more women-like. Super cool. Making me sound like a radio sample. Lo-fied with the King's microphones. EQ'd for softness. And to the boy, Seventh Heaven on vocal chamber. I am now a radio-worthy sample. I am very proud of this. here it's the same keys, but without lo-fi and with reverb. And here's another different sample with the same effects as before. It's just a different sample than the beginning because there's no octave on it, and there's a little different melody. I keep it on the low because I don't really like hearing myself, but it does add the little bit of complexity that the part needs. It's a lot more pronounced on the original because I can actually fucking sing, but I'm having loads of fun. So let's master this. My first plugin mastering is usually been Golfos, but I've been using it softer. This guy is a dynamic EQ that tries to make your mix more pleasant to the human ear by using a recover parameter that usually recovers low end and high end for a maximum beautiful loudness curve and tames the mid-range. I've been using it on like 10 and 5%. This just gives a little bit of a different balance to the mix. Hopefully you can hear that with it off. It's just a little bit more boxy, and with it on, it's like 1% better. Mix bus compression. New mix bus compressor. This is the BX Townhouse, and it's basically an emulation of an SSL. So here I am looking for the snare to duck the rest of the mix a little bit, as well as the kick. And this allows for an increase in volume and balance of the drums with the rest of the song in a very gluey fashion. 10 millisecond attack still leaves some punch to get to the limiter. And yeah, auto release makes it very low key, so that's a good word. Hitting between 1 and 2. My usual friend, linear multiband compressor. Not doing anything special with it today. Just running the mix through it, and it's compressing a little bit like it usually does. I think it's worthy of notice that usually I tend to mix mid-range heavy, and it hits this band earlier and it starts to compress. Even with it all flat, but it's not happening today. So maybe I'm gaining a little bit of a different balanced taste. Into a fattener, I usually use the tape guy when I want to fatten things up, but I'm going to be using inflator from now on. This guy, it inflates the mix a little bit, which is usually what I'm looking for with the tape plugin, but this gets me closer faster. It's very apparent. That must have been very obvious to you guys. It's not just loudness, it's warmth. It's really inflating. I don't really know what it does, but it just does it. That's how people describe it, and I do agree, and I've been liking what it does. And the new loudness tool, Flatline, is a limiter / clipper by Submission Audio. Same guys that did the bass I'm using. So Ermin Hamidovic. And yep, I use this the same way I've used old Ozone, which is turn it down until it starts hitting my drums, and then make it dig into the drums until the mix starts to distort, and then push it back up until it doesn't. That's the theory. This sounds a little bit more aggressive than Ozone, and I'll be trying it out and trying it against Ozone. See what I like the most. here he is. Let's play with the threshold and output. Also, the visuals are bugged. I hope they fix this. You can see the gain reduction here. Oh wait, the output. Okay, sorry. Okay, I must have blown your ears then. For example, you can see there the mix completely hits the shitter. Let's back it off until it doesn't. I found that this -10 was good. And then since I always want the mix to have a little bit of headroom and not hit the 0, I did the output half a dB less. I think that's going to be my work with this plugin from now on. Very simple. And then you either like the way it distorts and crunches or you don't. Here I dig it. It's very apparent when I mix a bass drop super loud, and here it's very crunchy when the bass drop hits, if you could feel that. You can hear the whole mix go like, and then it splats and then it distorts into it, and I dig it. I also dig it there. Cool overload sound. And yeah, that is the mixing tutorial, guys. A big one with loads of cool stuff and a few new plugins to try out, a few new tricks, a few new ideas, and a mix I'm very happy with. And I'm very happy that you are watching this. You are awesome. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you in the next one.